Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm back from the pre-release here for Dragon's Maze, and I have a box that I'm going to be opening up here from my winnings. So I ended up going 5-0-1 for the event, which put me in the first place and got me 36 packs here. So we're going to open that up and take a look at it. Aside from that, I also got this pack of promo planes that they were giving out for the event. So my shop had a huge amount of them left over, and they were doing, I think, either 3 or 4 events. And first and second place got a pack of these. So I think there's like 15 or 20 of them in there. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't opened it yet. But this is pretty cool, aside from the one that everybody got. And I also got a bag of pins. So there's one of each guild here, which is kind of cool. So the store gave this to me as well for coming in first place. So we're going to take a look at this box here, and we're going to see what we have inside in terms of packs and if we get anything good. I'm not entirely amazed with Dragon's Maze. There are a few interesting cards in there, like the 4-drop Make a Worm spell, and also Rouse Eric. Those were probably like the 2 big things that stand out to me. Also the Blood Baron, it's not bad either. But we're going to take a look at what we have inside of here and just quickly go through these packs, taking a look at what rares we get out of here. So we have the flyer here with Rouse Eric and all the information on the back here. And we're going to start cracking these open. The guild that I chose for Dragon's Maze was Selesnya, and I got Boros for my other guild. And so let's see what we have inside of this first pack here. If I can open this. These ones don't want to open this way. Oh. Move that a little bit off to the side. So our first rare is the Scion of Vitu-Ghazi. And we have a Gruul Guildgate. So one of the cool things about Dragon's Maze is that they don't have basic lands in this set, so it's all going to be either that you get a Guildgate, or you have the chance of getting a shockland, or you can get the Dragon's Maze. There we go, this one was easier to open up. And we have a foil Pontiff of Blight, and oh, this was the rare. I just kind of skipped over because I normally, whenever I see the split cards, I usually assume they're uncommons. We have Breaking and Entering. I didn't really see this one very often, but Breaking mills for 8, which is kind of cool. So it's kind of like Glimpse to Unthinkable, but just a little bit smaller scale. And we have the foil Pontiff of Blight, Selesnya Guildgate in the Spirit. So the Pontiff is actually a rare, and that's pretty awesome. And we have Mirko Vosk, Mind Drinker, so probably my favorite name for any legendary creature ever. This guy just looks really awesome. And we have an Azorius Guildgate. We have Legion's Initiative, and we have a foil Woodlock Crawler, and Rakdos Guildgate. So, Mythic here, Legion's Initiative, pretty awesome. It's an Anthem effect, and it's a pretty interesting one, too. Allows you to blink your creatures. We have Trait Doctoring, Mutant's Prey foil. The other thing was that not very many people ended up pulling any shocklands out of their guild packs, or well, not the guild packs, the guild box in general. Not a lot of people ended up pulling any shocklands out of their Dragon's Maze packs. So we have Renounce the Guilds, forcing each player to sacrifice a monocolored permanent. Or multicolored permanent, not monocolored, multicolored. Oh. I'm so out of it. I'm so tired from having to do all those rounds. I actually barely got any sleep, too. So, it doesn't help at all. It looks like we have another foil here. We have the Arachnos Blood Witch. She's actually really awesome. I played against the guy that had her, and she just bashes face. And a foil Rat Control. And Golgari Guildgate. Just kind of looking out for the shocklands. And we have the Blade of the Legion, Tajik. And he was actually one of the guys that I pulled for the pre-release, and he's pretty nutty. He's pretty good. The fact that he's indestructible and he can be a 7/7 is pretty good. Actually, it's not pretty good, it's really good. Ended up pulling that and also Assemble the Legion in terms of Boros cards, which was pretty solid. And we have Dragon Shift, which was another just absurd card for Izzet. Izzet had some pretty good cards overall. Golgari also had Putrefy, which was pretty nice. I was pretty happy that not a lot of people got it, and I didn't have to play against it very much. Alright, so we have a foil Advent of the Worm, and yet again I skipped over it. So we have Flesh and Blood as our regular rare, and a foil Advent of the Worm, which I'm not entirely sure how much this is worth, but this card's actually pretty interesting. It's one of the cards that stood out to me. Just the fact that it's a 4-cost instant that gives you a 5/5. It's pretty good for the mana, and for a limited, it's really nice because it lets you kind of get the advantage of having an instant speed way of getting a 5/5 onto the table for 4 mana that could potentially screw up your opponent's combat math. So it's not a bad box overall. I wouldn't mind pulling a Ralzeric out of here. I think that's probably what I want the most out of this box. We have a Zerta Ancient, Golgari Guildgate, and this is the last pack out of the first column here. And we have Amara Tandris and a foil Turn and Burn. So a lot of foils. It's kind of weird to see this many foils out of just one column. But we have the Selesnya Leader. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to creature tokens you control. That's pretty nice for a 7-drop. The fact that she's a 5/7 and the fact that Dragon's Maze is a really slow format and you can cast big things and you can play big things pretty easily. Like, you can get away with high-end curves. She's a pretty good card to have as a 7-drop. But yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised at how many foils I've gotten so far. And then we have a Putrefy there. We have a Boros Battle Shaper. I'm going to try and speed things along here. So we have a Renegade Krasis. This was another card that I pulled for the pre-release. I didn't end up playing it though. I didn't want to go heavy green. Double green was way too intensive for what I was kind of splashing green for. And we have a Pontiff of Blight. Yet again, another card that I pulled in the pre-release, and we have a Temple Garden. So we have a shockland. That's always awesome. Alright. Let's keep things going. I'm not entirely sure what the ratio is for shocklands out of each box. We have a Gaze of Granite. It's a really interesting card. I really like this card, actually. And we have a Godless Shrine, so back-to-back shocklands. Gaze of Granite. Or Granite. However you want to pronounce it. Alright, we'll see here. And we have... Is this the rare? Yeah, this is the rare. It's so... It's like really tiny. The symbol is really tiny, so you can barely see it. But we have Ready and Willing. And the Mirror Guildgate. I like that they brought back split cards. And it's even more awesome that they incorporated Fuse on them. We have Progenitor Mimic. This guy was actually pretty insane. One of my buddies was playing it in his sealed pool. It is really nutty. Just being able to copy a creature on the battlefield, and at the beginning of your upkeep, if that creature isn't a token, put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of this creature. That's crazy. This guy's just really awesome just because you get to copy anything. And in limited, it's a pretty solid card to have, especially because he was copying up just really crazy stuff. He copied up a legendary creature one of the games that I was watching, and then the other games he copied up a Golgari Longlegs, and that got him the win. So the Mimic is just awesome. And we have a Savage-Born Hydra. Another just insane bomb. The fact that it's an X-cost creature, enters the battlefield with X counters, and for one generic and one hybrid Gruul, you can put a +1/+1 counter at sorcery speed. It's just absolutely insane for limited because the guy has double strike. So we're a little bit over, or just around halfway done with this box. We have Possibility Storm. And we have Council of the Absolute. So the Mythic for Azorius. It's kind of interesting. It's like Arbiter, but not really Arbiter. It also has Meddling Mage on it as well. So it was a really interesting card to see printed as a 2/4 for 4, and it's not a legendary creature or anything like that. And another Mirko Vosk, Mind Drinker. Not mad about it. Definitely not mad about it. And yeah, we do have a rare here, so Breaking and Entering. And that's another one, actually. We already pulled one of those. Yeah, so that was the second one out of this box, so we have another one of those. And we have a foil, Smelt Ward Gatekeepers. And this is the last pack out of the second column. And we have a Malek. Is it Paragon? That guy was pretty awesome too. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may cast the top card of your library if it's an instant or a sorcery. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell from your library, copy it. You can choose new targets. Pretty good. There's a lot of really fun kitchen table magic out of this set. We have a Plasm Capture and a foil Selesnya Cluestone. Made the Mirror Guild Gate. We have Obzerat's Aid, so sorcery speed, return target permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. 5 mana. It's kind of interesting because it's a permanent card and it doesn't have a restriction for creatures or anything like that. That's actually a card that seems pretty promising to me for Solar Flare-ish type interactions. We have the Blood Scrivener. Actually played against this guy, and he's quite annoying if your opponent doesn't have any cards in the hand. They just kind of exhaust everything they have in their hand, and they can pay. They pay 1 life, and they draw 2 cards instead. Makes top deck mode really awesome. We have Beck and Call. This card's actually pretty ridiculous. This was one of those cards that I looked at and thought that it's really promising, just because it's as close to Glimpse of Nature as Beck can get, but it's not quite it, but just because it's a little bit more expensive. But whenever a creature enters the battlefield this turn, you may draw a card, and it's 1 green, 1 blue, and Call makes 4 1/1s, 1/1 flyers for 6 mana, and then you can fuse them. I actually really like this card. And then we have the Azorius Guild Gate. I really like the art that they did for the Guild Gates too. How they kind of just zoomed out on the previous arts that they have for Return to Ravnica and Gatecrash. And we have Skylasher, another Guild Gate. Skylasher was pretty. It's a pretty unique card because it has flash. We don't have a huge amount of flash cards in formats like Standard, but the fact that it has flash, can't be countered, it has reach, and has protection from blue makes it a really unique card in certain situations, especially when it comes to like limited siding it in. It was a card that I pulled, but I didn't really have the opportunity to play it at all because every single deck that I played against was not running blue out of the 6 rounds that I played. And that's an uncommon. And then we have another Boros Battle Shaper. And we have another Dragon Shift. So a lot of doubles. We have a few multiples out of this box. Then again, Dragon's Maze is a pretty small set. It's not really that huge. And we have Flesh and Blood. and a Gruel Guildgate. We have another Zerta Ancient, only further going on to validate my comment about there being a lot of multiples. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed yourselves if you went to the pre-release. I know it was a lot of fun. And we have Notion Thief. This is another guy that I actually really like out of the set. Flash 3/1 for 4. And if an opponent would draw a card, except the first one he or she draws in each of his or her draw steps, instead that player skips that draw and you draw a card. That guy seems really promising. And the fact that he has Flash makes him really, really nice up against draw spells. You can just respond to things whenever your opponent's trying to cast any type of draw element, and you just get to draw cards instead. And we have a regular Advent of the Worm. So 2 of those, one of them being foil. And last pack here. We'll see just what we get. So 2 shocklands out of this box. It seems to be like a little bit under the ratio that you would see them out of the original boxes, like out of Return to Ravnica and Gatecrash. Usually you would average around like 3 or 4. Most of the boxes that I opened had like 4, so it's just about like half, but that's just this box. That could be entirely different for other boxes. So last pack, and we'll see what we have here. We have the Sire of Insanity, 6/4 for 6. At the beginning of each end step, each player discards his or her hand. And we have a foil Gruel Guildgate and a Orzhov Guildgate. That's kind of cool. I didn't know that you could get 2 Guildgates if one of them was foil out of the pack. I would have imagined that it would replace it or something like that. But yeah, that is this first Dragon's Maze box that I'm opening up here from my prize winnings from the Dragon's Maze pre-release. Overall, it was a pretty decent box. Nothing way too like ridiculous or anything like that. The foil Advent of the Worm is pretty cool, and the few mythic rares that I got out of here. But ultimately, let me know how your pre-release experience went in the comments down below. Be sure to drop a like and subscribe for more Magic the Gathering content. Peace out, guys.